Hi Church on Main and any other friends that are watching. I'm going to be over the next few days looking at the theme of contentment, which is a very beautiful theme. When we started this lockdown, Andrew took us to Philippians 4 and we looked at the scripture that talks about anxiety and that from God we can get a peace which guards our hearts and minds. And we're going back to Philippians 4 today, so I'm going to be reading from Philippians 4 verses 11 to 13. Not that I am speaking of being in need, for I have learned in whatever situation I am to be content. I know how to be brought low, and I know how to abound. In any and every circumstance I have learned the secret of facing plenty and hunger, abundance and need. I can do all things through him who strengthens me. The book of Philippians is known as an epistle of joy. It has been said that it reads like the greatest hits of the Bible. I know for myself, many of my favorite scriptures come from Philippians, and you might be the same. It is warm, it is optimistic, it is a hugely quotable book. And yet we learn that Paul writes this warm and friendly and happy book from prison. And we might want to ask ourselves, how can this be? How does he write this joyful book from a place of imprisonment? It seems like a contradiction. Well, we find ourselves in a very unique time in history, and it might be bringing out all sorts of emotions and responses within us. And we will look at some of this in the days ahead. Perhaps you felt restless or worried or disorientated or discontent. And the scriptures that I've just read, sometimes maybe some of us, maybe just me, we can read that and think there's this special spiritual ability that some people have been given, this secret, and it's for those people. But we need to remember that Paul was human, just like us, and he had faced some very difficult times. He had been shipwrecked, he had been betrayed, he had been beaten, and now he finds himself writing this book in prison. But he had learned the secret of being content. And that word content brings up the thoughts of sufficiency. When you look at that Greek word, it's a peaceful happiness. So firstly, we found out that Paul had learned it. We need to remember that. He learned that secret. He wasn't born with this ability. And then secondly, we have verse 13. It's often quoted in isolation. I can do all things through him who gives me strength. When we want to encourage something, who wants to achieve something or is about to go do something. But it actually follows on from verse 12. This is the key that Paul gives us. And Jesus' strength in Paul produces something far richer than achievement. It produces contentment. In a society and in our world that is so restless and so discontent, so striving for more, so dissatisfied and never satisfied, it's never enough. But we can find ourselves in a place of strength where we can gain this peaceful happiness through Jesus. His strength becomes ours despite the circumstances we find ourselves in. It is a good thing to allow God to reveal what we find coming out from inside of us. That's not a bad thing. We can trust him. It's a safe space to allow those things to be brought out to God. And we can surrender. We don't have to hide. I can do all things through Jesus who gives me strength, and he will help us as we look at the things that are coming out and we look to him for strength so that we can learn the secret, like Paul is able to say. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful day, and I will see you tomorrow.